Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Create Your Best Chapter podcast. My name is Vera Ilnyckyj, and I help women create the best chapter of their lives. And I love doing that. And I love having this podcast because I chat with really amazing women who have created their own best chapter of their life. And the reason why I think this is so important to have these conversations is because we are not alone in this journey and we all need inspiration and motivation and words of wisdom. And I think that sharing our stories is so powerful and can just really impact so many people. And so I'm just so grateful to be able to have these amazing women on my podcast. And today I have an amazing lady. Her name is Miranda Holmes. I met Miranda last year, right before she opened up her new business. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But Miranda is the founder and owner of PŌZEN Yoga. This is an inclusive, non-heated studio here in Calgary. She's really designed it thoughtfully to help participants at all levels reconnect with themselves. Now, before she started PŌZEN Yoga, Miranda spent 10 years as an actor for film and television, where she learned the art of storytelling and creating meaningful connections. She grew up on a farm in New Brunswick, which taught her resilience and creativity. And then she later moved to Vancouver, where she completed her yoga teacher training. When she came to Calgary, she realized she did not seem to fit into the yoga scene here. And she transitioned into retail, managing high-profile brands and building dynamic skill sets. 10 years of feeling like she didn't belong inspired Miranda to create a studio that focuses on inclusivity, individuality, and building a community where everyone feels at home. And so, of course, we're aligned on all that because if you've listened to any of my podcasts or any of my posts, you know that community and connection is really, really important to me. So, Miranda, your studio is really beautiful and inclusive and warm. And I'm so glad that you're here on my show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely a journey that I'm excited to talk about and discuss. And I'm happy that all of the things that I felt passionate about, you also feel passionate about. So I think this is going to be a really fun and interesting conversation.
Well, let's maybe get into that. Like, how did you start this next chapter of your life? And just describe that a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's crazy because when I think of the one chapter, I almost have to think of all the chapters in my book, which feels like it's a million pages, but also really simple in like 5 pages. And when I think about the way that my life has progressed and the things that I have been passionate about, the thing that has always stayed consistent for me was being a safe space for other people and making sure that I'm really aligning myself with the things that matter the most to me, which is community, really, at the end of it all, and creating something that makes people feel special. And when I thought about PŌZEN Yoga and the studio, a lot of it came from really just not being able to find that for myself. And I actually completely fell out of yoga, funny enough. We have a lot of people who come to the studio who are like, I haven't done yoga in 10 years. I'm like, oh, me neither. Right. And so it creates a really good connection there. But I really struggled to find a place like that where I could just come in, be myself, feel like I was appreciated there and understood. And so one day I looked at my husband and he looked at me and we were like, you want to do something crazy? And the answer was yes. And we did something crazy.
That's so cool. How did it feel to just lean into doing something crazy like that?
It felt scary for sure. There was definitely moments of fear involved. And I think it's important to talk about that as an entrepreneur because, you know, we see a lot of the really shiny stuff on Instagram or social media, but there was fear in it. And it was really nice to have my husband alongside with me to make sure that we were both supporting each other. And even friends in my circle who are rooting for me saying like, yeah, you can do anything. And I'm like, can I? But the answer was yes. And of course, there was so much excitement and so much fulfillment that came out of it to really just be able to create something that you believe in wholeheartedly and see other people believing in it as well. That was something that was just unbelievable and continues to be unbelievable for me every single day.
How do you do the thing while you're afraid? Because that's a big question that I get asked a lot. And I firmly believe the fear actually never does go away. But I'm curious how you do the thing that's crazy and scary and you're fearful and you just do it anyways.
That's a good question. I think for me, it's funny in what you talked about with my childhood acting days. That actually taught me a lot in my experience, because when I think of my own personal skill set, one of the things that has truly helped me is being able to channel the nerves and the fear and come in and do something great with it. And I think a lot of that has to do with my own perspective and being able to control my own perspective. I think that is such a powerful tool, to be able to look at something that's scary and say to yourself, you know what? This is actually exciting. This is really exciting. That's probably what all the butterflies were for anyway, right? And being able to convince yourself in that way. And that for me has been able to help me just jump into so many different experiences in my life and really reframe, sorry, the way that I perceive it.
That is really powerful. And it's something that I talk about a lot as well, this power of choice, that you can either let those feelings and emotions control you, or those negative thoughts control you and dictate what you're going
Mhm.
to do or not do. Or you can say, well, do I choose to believe this thought? Is this thought true? And what you're saying is, I'm going to choose a whole different thought completely. I'm going to reframe this fear that I'm feeling, these butterflies in my stomach. I'm going to reframe that as, actually, this is excitement.
Mhm. Exactly. Well, and I think too, sometimes it's hard to decipher what we're actually feeling in the moment. And I think your brain tries to play tricks on you sometimes, right? Where it could be like, oh, actually, I'm too scared to do this. But in reality, it's just nervousness and excitement that's sitting inside of you because it means so much to you. And if you don't do it, then you're not doing something that's meaningful, when you know internally, deep down, after you kind of remove the fear, that it's something that could really transform your life.
Mm. So, what's your technique for doing that, for connecting into the deep down knowing? What do you do to actually tap into that?
I think the biggest thing is trying to stop all of the thoughts that are going through my mind, especially when I'm going into something that's nerve-wracking. There's 100 million things that are rolling through my mind and all the different scenarios that are coming through. And just acknowledging that that's happening, taking a moment, maybe even closing my eyes and taking a deep breath. I think that's the biggest thing to start the process, because it helps reconnect my mind and my body together. Like, I am in control of my body and I am in control of my mind. So what is there really to fear? And I think going through thinking that type of question, like, what is there really to fear? I think that is what really helps level me out. So I'm not just a nervous wreck. Because even before this, too, Vera, I was nervous, right? I'm sitting here, I'm like testing out my microphone, I'm doing all those things. But then I'm thinking to myself, am I in fight or flight for a reason, or am I just feeling a lot of feelings? And it's really helped to be able to identify where that's actually coming from.
Mm. Thanks for sharing that. And I think that is really powerful, to know yourself and know what's real, what's not real, to understand how it feels in your body, and to understand what to actually do to, I guess, to shift away from the negative and the stuckness, and to actually like move forward through things. And I like what you said about, I think when you're nervous or when you feel something, but it's because you're so invested in it and you believe in it so deeply, that that almost helps you overcome the fear. Like, do you find that?
Yes. I think too, when I know that I'm doing something that's good for me and for the community, I think that's also a driving force. When I know, like, maybe I'm scared, but I know that my community are behind me and they're backing me, right? They're pushing me to do this. And I think that's also important. And everybody has a community in their lives, whether it's just, their best friend or their partner or their huge family. There's always some community around you. And just knowing that those people are always rooting for you, I think is something that's really, really powerful as well.
Yeah. How does it feel to be the leader of that community, or to be out front and be seen?
That's a really good question, actually. Um, it's funny because I don't consider myself that way. And I think that maybe that's helpful, maybe it's not. I don't know. I think when I think about the community that I'm with and that surround me, we're more of a collective of individuals, and we all push each other to be better. And even when I think of the yoga studio and I think of our members who come in and tell me all their stories, sometimes I ask them for advice. I'm like, hey, what should I do in this situation or not? Because there's so many people with so many different experiences that everybody kind of holds the same, the same level of importance in terms of what direction we all go and whatnot. And I think I'm really blessed and lucky to be in a space where I'm able to help drive the car a little bit because of the space that we've created. But ultimately, it's a whole group of individuals who are like-minded. And I'm sure you kind of feel that too, where it's just a group of like-minded individuals. And it's so awesome to be able to look at someone and ask them for advice and for them to do the same for me. So
I think that's beautiful, and it's something I've been really leaning into is this whole idea of collaboration and this feminine energy of leaning into each other's wisdom and leaning into community versus what we've maybe been conditioned to in our society as being competitive or not sharing or holding, things close to our chest, that type of thing. And, what you're saying is like, hey, like I've created this space for people. That's the vessel, but I'm also here to learn. And I'm also here to share. And I'm also here to hold space for people. And I'm also here to ask for advice. And it's this like give and take, like this receiving energy and the giving energy as well, right?
definitely, for sure. And I think just even creating a safe space for people in general, what that allows them to be their genuine self, you just learn so much. My perspective is my perspective and that's just it. And so it's really interesting to see the perspective of so many other people who have gone through so many other experiences that I've never even gone close to. And I think that there's so much power in that and being able to understand people and just understand where they came from and using that wisdom to support again like the broad community versus just myself.
Yeah. What's been your biggest lesson on this particular journey of yours? Opening up the yoga studio and doing something crazy, as you call it, with your husband. Like, what have you really learned?
I think the biggest thing that I look back and think to myself, like, wow, I really grew as a person in that area, I think is patience with myself for sure. I am the type of individual where I will go all day, all night. If I have a dream and I have a vision and I have a goal, I can really hyper focus in on that. And now that the studio has almost been open for a year, I came to realize like I can't operate like that for a whole year. It's just not reasonable. And it's so funny because the industry that we're in with yoga is not about that. And it's so interesting to go into that space and take some of the sessions or even like talk to my instructors or talk to our members. And the things that I'm saying about being patient with yourself and understanding yourself and honoring your time and honoring your rest. I had to look at myself really hard in the mirror and be like, okay, so I'm not doing any of that. So I need to really practice what I preach here, essentially. And so it's been a long journey to be able to, again, look at myself and just understand my patterns and come to realize that rest is important for me too. And I'm also deserving of that as well. So that's kind of been my biggest internalized lesson.
It's funny because the people that we surround ourselves with are sometimes often a mirror of what we need to hear. And I sometimes I joke around that I do this podcast or I create social media posts because I need to hear my own message. So I totally hear what you're saying, Miranda.
Yeah, I'm like, whoops.
Yeah, exactly. So who do you really feel called to serve? Like, I know that you've created this community and it's inclusive and it's safe, but who do you like in your heart really feel called to serve and help?
I think that's an awesome question. It's funny when I first opened the studio, I thought I was looking for a very specific group of people. And I think when you start your own business and you start learning about like, okay, like what's marketing? Who knows? When you start learning about, what kind of niche do you want to be in, or who's your ideal client and things like that. I had a certain idea in mind. And then as we opened and I was able to meet so many different types of people, really the baseline was that I wanted to be inclusive, make sure that everybody felt welcome. That's also why we have a gender neutral change room. For anybody who doesn't identify either way, there is a safe space for them. And then there's also a men's and a women's change room as well. But I wanted to be sure that the baseline was inclusive. But then when I started meeting the people who came through, it honestly felt like, to me, I was meeting regular people. I wasn't looking for this ideal individual. I was meeting my neighbors, funny enough, who I'd never met. We didn't know we were neighbors. I was meeting people who hadn't had mobility in their lives for the past 10 years. I was meeting with people who were going through some serious health issues, and then people who were just going through a change in their lives. And when I started reflecting on who that was, I realized that it was actually everybody, right? We're all going through something. And I think that was such a powerful thing for me to understand, is that there's not one person who I'm looking for, or one type of person. It's I'm wanting to identify with everybody, because we're all going through something, right? In the end, something. So yeah.
And that's a really great reminder, because I see that as well, right? Like, we're all on social media and everyone looks put together. We go out to a networking
Mhm.
event, or we go to the grocery store and everyone looks, quote unquote normal, and everyone's quote unquote happy. But as well as I do, like, as soon as you go just a tiny bit below the surface, it's really incredible what people are actually carrying in their life and what they're going
Mhm.
through. Maybe it's at different stages, and maybe, sometimes we're in different cycles of life and phases of life, but we are all going through something, and it's such a poignant reminder about that. That we're not life is not social media. Like, life is not an
No.
Instagram page, right? I wish.
No. I know, I'm like, me too. I wish, but it's not. And I think that also was one of the main reasons behind the studio for me, is I wanted to create a good hour and a half. If someone wanted to spend an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, maybe 5, depending on what they need in their lives. But I wanted to spend a really good dedicated time for an individual to come into the space and realize that this is all for them. I think a lot of the time we go through our lives taking care of other people, especially as women, taking care of other people, or feeling the weight of others, and being able to actually take some time for yourself and realize that I'm being taken care of. People care that I'm here. And what I'm going through in this moment is important, I think, is such an amazing gift to give to somebody. And I think that that's what's resonated the most in our community, is that when they're here, and we're here to take care of them. So I have goosebumps saying that, because it's
Mhm.
so important to me.
Yeah, it is really important. And you're so right that, especially as women, we don't give ourselves permission often enough to actually do that. And we are nurturing and we are loving and we're caring, and those things are really amazing, and we need that in the world.
Mhm.
But you can't give back if you yourself aren't being nurtured or being held or being looked after. So I love that that's a big part of your mission, a big part of your why.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's important to remind anybody, really, that they can be cared for, even if it's going into a yoga studio and they just thought they were going to buy a drop-in and like come in and do a class, and suddenly it's surprise, I actually like love you.
What are some of the coolest, stories that you've heard from your clients that have been coming to you for, since you've been open? Like, have you seen some really amazing transformations?
Yes, I have. And honestly, I've cried so much. And
Mm.
I don't want to cry now. So I won't cry now. But to be able to listen to some of these stories has been honestly just amazing. It's been amazing. And I think of people who have come in, and they've been coming for a while, and they say to me like, "Hey, this is the first time in many years that I've actually cared about what I'm doing with my body." I think that
Mhm.
has been incredible to see, as well as mobility transformations. That has also been incredible. Like, someone who wasn't able to get up and down easily, eventually over time being able to conquer that, and just to see the care that they have for them, their own selves again. I think that has been beautiful to watch, as well as people who are able to come in and just find value in themselves. I think that is something that's incredible about yoga, but also incredible about the wellness space in general, is understanding that sometimes when you come into that space, you don't see the value of yourself. And then over time, you can just watch the small steps happening until maybe like a couple weeks later, they say to you like, hey, I'm really proud of myself for coming here and being here. I've cried many times, and I could right now, but I won't. I won't.
I mean, that's incredible. And what does that do for people when all of a sudden they start seeing value in themselves and they're able to really believe in their bodies again? Like, what does that do for them?
I mean, the world is the oyster at that point, right? Like, it's just, I find once you truly have your self-belief back and you know that you're in control of your mind and your body and your spirit, I think the world is truly your oyster, and you're able to do anything. And I really hope that creating a space like PŌZEN has created that for people, because it's definitely what I want to see in the people who come to our studio, is just, again, that they value themselves and that we value them and that we back them 100%. And if they can't be their own cheerleader in the moment right now, that we are doing that for them until they're able to do it for themselves.
Well, you are doing that. And so I really acknowledge
Thank you.
that, because it's very important work, and it's a very important mission. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
What are you looking to create for your clients and your business this year?
Oh man, lots. I got lots going on. I might need a moment to look at myself in the mirror and say to calm down. But I'm definitely looking to create more and more memorable experiences for people. One of the things I'm really excited about is our yoga retreat coming up in Greece. It's in June. That is going to be phenomenal. I'm really hoping that the people who come feel the energy and the love and the care that we've put into the planning around that, as well as their experience. We're also looking to continue our registered series, which are centered around mental health. One of the new ones that we had launched was Yoga for Burnout Recovery, which was amazing, amazing, amazing to lean into, because I think so many of us, especially now coming into 2025, coming off the holiday season, the new year and all that stuff, we're feeling it, right? Like, it was, last year was a lot, and it was a lot for a lot of people. And so being able to lean into the mental health aspects, the memorable experiences, but then still continuing to deliver an incredible service of just a space that's safe for people to come. I think that is just the small things I'm wanting to do this year.
Just a few small little tiny things.
Just a couple things on the list.
Well, we're definitely going to put the links in the show notes for people interested in, the retreat in Greece or any of your registered programs. And you know what? Like, I'm hearing that right now, even 2026. Like, look at all the things that are going on in the world right now that's creating a lot of chaos and distraction and confusion and stress for people. And that burnout is definitely not going away. So the work that you do is, really, really needed now this year as well. So, I definitely encourage people to check out PŌZEN Yoga and go to Miranda's classes and just look after yourself, because we need people who are feeling good about themselves to change the world, right? And create more positivity and more of a positive impact.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what words of wisdom would you like to give to a woman who is either going through a major life change right now, or who is thinking about, taking the leap into creating a new chapter? What would you like to tell her?
I might say this is what I would say to myself, because I think over the past couple of years and really transforming my life from one thing to a completely different thing, I think the biggest thing that supported my own mental clarity of what I was trying to do, and really my own positive mindset around who I am, was understanding my dynamic skill set. And I think that is a really powerful tool, especially if you're someone who has, had a different trajectory of their life than the norm, I say in quotations, or you're going through something that's completely different, or you want to jump into something you've never done. I think just taking some time to reflect on your previous experiences in your life and knowing what skill did you learn from that. So to give you an example, being a child actor, it's always funny to say that. When I think about the skill sets that I learned at that time, it really supported me in being able to open my own business because I had the ability to understand people, right? And understand that there's always something that's happening in the background. When someone tells you something, there's something else that's going on that they're thinking about or where it came from. And I think it really supported me in being able to understand who I was talking to and really like what I was trying to decipher from a conversation. And I think everybody has those experiences in their lives, and it might not look like what you see on social media, or it might not look like, you know, what your friends looks like, but that doesn't mean that your skill set is any less effective. It just means that it might be a little bit more dynamic. And I think when I started looking at my past in that way, it really helped me understand that, you know, when I went through something traumatic or I went through something that was a huge change, that the positive on the other end was that I learned so much and could apply it to the things that actually helped me achieve my dreams.
That's amazing advice. And I 100% agree with you that everything that's happened to us, that we've been through, that we've experienced, that we've learned is all bringing us to where we are right now. And we all have our uniqueness and our unique strengths and abilities. So I love that you know, reflected on that because you're right. That becomes part of your secret sauce of what's going to actually move you forward, give you purpose, give you fulfillment, create happiness in your life, all those things.
Definitely. And we're meant to be in communities, but we're also individuals. And the things that we bring individually are so special. And again, it might not look like, you know, the person beside you, but I think that that's what's important when we're talking about uniqueness and we're talking about your own individual and dynamic skill set. It's just, it's so interesting and everybody's looks so different. And I think that's so powerful to bring into anybody's journey of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. I know we can keep talking for, you know, a long time. Obviously, we're aligned on so many things, but
Mhm.
you know, I wish you so much success. You've already had so much success. You're so inspiring. I know the first time I met you, there was just such great, amazing energy. I love how you say that you craft things and you create things with so much care and love. And to me, that is so important. And I just really acknowledge you for that because that care and that love shines through and it's what's attracting people to you and really helping you achieve your purpose in the world. So thank you for everything that you do. I look forward to staying connected and I wish you so much success and happiness and joy in 2026.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the conversation. It was so much fun. And I also feel like we could talk for a very long time. So I will try to stop talking, but I appreciate what you do as well. I think it's so important to make sure that you're connected with people and especially with women as a woman. It's lovely to talk to somebody who has the same values and passions and care for other people in the world. And I appreciate all the positive things you said about my studio and myself. It's so nice to hear. I'm not going to cry. I already said I won't. So we'll stop right there. But thank you.
Well, thank you. And to everyone who's listening, thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.